Welcome to the Mayor's Update for December 2015. I'm Megan Pembroke, Communications Director for the City of Everett. And each month we sit down with Mayor Ray Stephanson to talk about issues and projects that are important to you. Welcome, Mayor.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. We've
Right
arrived at the end of the year.
I know. It just seems like, a year ago we were here. Yesterday.
Deja vu.
Time is moving so quickly and so many interesting and wonderful things happening all around us. So it's a good time to be alive.
Well, and to start off, one of those interesting things that's happening around us, as we've been talking about a lot, is the Streets Initiative. Mm-hmm. And at the end of November, we had a really exciting week. We had Lloyd Pendleton from Utah up here to talk about Housing First. Really great events around that. Can you talk a little bit about what Lloyd did while he was here and who he met with and what was discussed?
Well, Lloyd Pendleton, the name probably doesn't mean anything to anyone. It didn't mean anything to me before I started studying and learning about what Salt Lake City had done around low barrier housing or Housing First. Lloyd is an interesting individual. He's a real plain talker, straight shooter. I think clearly feels a calling around helping the less fortunate. You sort of get that in what he says. And I think the other thing that's appealing to me, because it's sort of been the same kind of journey for me, he didn't start, and I certainly didn't start in this place of, we have to do something to help people that find themselves homeless and with other afflictions. I saw it as a problem. And I heard our citizens complain about it and our businesses, and I have a lot of empathy for the impact that it has on people's lives. But when you get below the surface and not too far, you realize that for the most part, a lot of the people that find themselves in poverty, and it could be a loss of job, it could have been a substance abuse problem, family problems. A lot of my fellow veterans just have a difficult time dealing with the world after coming out from the war. And just all of those things that afflict us as human beings, that there are a percent of our population that is affected that way. And so from the very beginning, and this is now, this journey for me has really been a focus of probably a couple of years when, we brought 23 citizens together really from all walks of life and said, we need help, understanding what the street issues are, what the different points of view are, and how do we proactively deal with this. And what I think we collectively learned through that process is, yes, there are bad actors out there. Yes, there are people who have records, and yes, there are some evil people out there. And all along, and I think we've really been true to our word about this, we have proposed a balanced approach to this. So it's not all about what people describe as the feel-good issues. It's about holding people accountable to follow the law, to hold people accountable to ensure they don't infringe on other people's quality of life or their safety. And part of our proposal that we have for 2016 deals with that. That's the dedicated police officers, 2 additional social workers, a prosecutor. All of that is to really focus our time and attention on the people who are on the streets. And I think really with sort of 2 primary outcomes. One is it gives us an opportunity and an avenue to find out who these people are, what's their story, what's their affliction, what help do they need, and can we help them? And probably most importantly, are they willing to get the help that we're willing to offer? And so policing, in sort of the pure sense of the word, has really changed. I think if people have it sort of in their mind that, you know, it's police officers carrying guns or batons and, you know, they're there to strictly enforce law and order, it is, I'm finding, it's just a totally different world, and we are blessed to have an incredible police department and police officers who you get that. They're smart people, they got good instincts, and they want this to be a better community. So we have that, and it's important that all our citizens know and all our businesses know that because we're trying to deal with some of the issues that got people to this point in their life, doesn't mean that we're going to forgive or allow people to run roughshod over the rest of us and break laws. That's not the case. So what Lloyd Pendleton and Salt Lake did really over the course of really the last decade is determine that if they could get people who had difficulties in housing first, i.e. housing first is sort of their theme program, or low barrier housing, it says to those who are in need, you don't have to get sober first, you don't have to get clean first, you don't have to solve or be on medication to solve your mental illness. We will get you the housing and shelter you need. We know where you are, we know that you're safe, and now we can wrap the services around you that can help you deal with life. And all of us, to varying degrees, we all struggle in life, you know. Family problems and aging parents and kids who are sick, and you know, some of us deal with that, have to deal with it, and we're pretty effective. Others, it just sort of sends them over the edge. And clearly, I think as human beings, to varying degrees, we're all pretty fragile. So you can see how people can get in a tough way. So what we have done, following our over 300 citizens coming out to hear Lloyd Pendleton at the end of November, more than I ever expected. And the comments and the comments I've received since, people in this community get it and they want to help. And it's so heartwarming to see that and to hear that. It's just marvelous. So Lloyd I said, well, I'll commit to do 20 housing units, low barrier housing units by June. He goes, that's fine, but like, would you do 5 in the next 60 days? So he browbeat me into that and embarrassed me in front of everybody and said, so I agreed. So by February 1st, when we do the second low barrier housing forum for citizens, we have committed to do 5 housing units. They'll probably be scattered through the community, but they're going to be very much focused on those individuals who are on the street that need help, that we can give them that hand up to get them started on the road to recovery.
That's really great. It's going to be moving quickly, and there's going to be a lot for people to get involved in. And we have talked a lot about housing, but as you mentioned, we've been making progress on those other prongs of what we've called the Safe Streets Plan, diversion and enforcement. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, oftentimes those that find themselves on the street and homeless, how do they support themselves? They panhandle, for one. They probably shoplift. Those who are more desperate, maybe they're burglarizing homes or cars. And so there are consequences when you break the law. The consequence that most often happens is people go before the judge. They plead guilty or not guilty. There's a hearing. They're determined by a jury of their peers whether they're guilty or not, and if they are, then they're sentenced to some period of time in jail. What diversion is about is to say, if you're nonviolent, you may be a first-time offender, we can see that there's a pattern there in your lifestyle that may have gotten you to that place of making that mistake. We will offer different sentencing alternatives. If you're capable, you might be working on a work crew, cleaning up, the very area that you messed up in your own community. If there are opportunities, if you have an abuse problem or you're willing to get in treatment, if you're willing to do that and commit to doing that and be successful in completing that, that could divert you from having to go into the criminal justice system. So that's the idea of diversion. Hill Kamen from our office, our lead prosecutor, is working with our judges, and this is, it's complicated and there's a lot of people involved, and you just can't flip a switch and have it happen overnight, but we are absolutely committed to standing that up, getting our judges sensitized to that so we can use that as a more positive tool. Because oftentimes if we take the incarceration route, pretty soon you have a record. Pretty soon your chances of ever getting a job or anybody ever hiring you is like slim and none. So it just exacerbates the problem.
Great.
Yep.
And as I've said before, if people are interested, we have a lot of information on our website at everettwa.gov/safestreets. We just posted a list of service providers in our area who are supporting those on the streets that people can support if they're interested. So a lot of great stuff.
And you're doing weekly updates on our successes. We have to obviously be confidential about people's identity, but the more we can put a face and a name, if you will, to these people who are at risk, the more human it makes it for all of us. So I loved reading about some of the successes so far, and the thing we have to remember too, there may be those people who are starting to get the help and they'll regress and get back into that lifestyle and have to start all over again. Sometimes it doesn't take for a few times, so we're going to have to be patient.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk about what's ahead in 2016.
At Everett Community College, you can stay close and go far.
For me, going far is faculty who really care about me.
Going far is becoming the first in my family to go to college.
Going far is taking the first step toward my dream job.
Going far is going to college without going broke.
At Everett Community College, you can stay close and go far.
Welcome back to the Mayor's Update. Well, Mayor, before we take a look at next year, I wanted to touch really quick on winter weather. We just had a pretty brutal storm at the end of November, and I know our emergency management department does a lot to try to get people prepared. What would you encourage people to do as we head into the winter season?
Probably all the common sense kinds of things. This last storm, we had wind on the bluff at Grand Avenue Park, I think, clocked over 50 miles an hour. We took one big tree down there. I think there were 120 locations in the city that had trees down, and one of the unusual parts of that storm, which is oftentimes creates a situation where we have trees falling, is the wind shifted and was coming out of the west, which is not a prevailing wind for us, particularly in the winter. So that's a lot of the reason why so many trees were down. So our crews have been out. Obviously PUD was out, and gosh, for those poor citizens that were without lights for a while, that's tough. But PUD did a great job, got help here to get people back in service, so that was terrific. So I'll share the things that people should do and I need to do, haven't done yet. So first of all, I'd just say clean your gutters. Now that we've had that big windstorm, your gutters are going to be full of rain. We did have a couple situations in that storm because we did have a lot of rain where basements flooded, but it wasn't a backup of sewer in the traditional problem that we've had here in North Everett. It was actually sort of a failing drainage system in and around your house. So get your gutters cleaned out. I've got to call and do that. I can remind myself. If you've got splash guards on your downspouts, I think they recommend getting like 5 feet away from the foundation. We have the rain barrel program which will collect that water. You can use it for irrigation, but you can disseminate it more evenly. So there's certainly that. Just cleaning your yard up and your surroundings. We're out doing a lot of street sweeping now. We'll continue to do that. So if you're wondering why we haven't cleaned up in front of your house, it might be because your car's parked there. So you might want to move that if you see the street sweeper around. And then, we've just seen an onslaught of people signing up for our CERT program, which is Community Emergency Response Team. And these are citizens that are trained by our emergency management people to prepare for storms or earthquakes or natural disasters of other type, and to help themselves and to help their neighbors. So go on our website, you can get signed up. I think we are filled up through right after the first of the year, so you may have to be a little patient in terms of the time you get in. But so those are the sort of common sense things. If you see something, call us, have us take a look at it. I know some of the trees that came down, there was probably concern in retrospect that some of those trees may have been rotten or in a deteriorated state. So if you're at all curious about that, if it's city property, we'll come out and look at it. Personal property, you may want to save yourself the thing falling through your house. So it's worth checking.
Yeah, I'm sure there's more ahead as we head into the winter. Well, and then finally, Mayor, it's December. We often take a minute to look ahead to 2016. And in January, you're starting your 13th year, and you will be the Everett's longest-serving mayor. So as you look back at your tenure and look ahead, what are your reflections and what are you looking forward to in 2016?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is make sure I'm as safe as I possibly can be. So I do actually see January. So that's first priority. What an honor and privilege to serve as mayor. I still have to pinch myself. It's just such an honor to know that the people that your neighbors and people in your community look to me and to the city council and to the administration to provide their services and support that they need. And it's not to say we don't make mistakes, but I think generally we do a really good job. We've got a dedicated staff, so real pleased about that. So, every year has sort of a different twist and turn, and we've had a lot of great accomplishments. The Navy, Washington State University's new building is going up. We're going to have medical students here in a few years. We want to start a new ag program, which will be very beneficial to the farmers in Snohomish County and Skagit and Island and Whatcom County, as well as other places in the state. So I think our higher education efforts are paying off, and we're really seeing that whole Cougar Nation just sort of grow out of the ground, which has just been terrific, and something that I'm really proud that we're able to accomplish for our community. Our medical community is expanding. Everett Clinic has a company that is going to acquire them. We'll still see the Everett Clinic brand, and I think in a lot of areas where they may have been limited in terms of growing or expanding, this acquisition will give them the opportunity to provide more medical services for all of us, and I think that's important as well. And I think this whole streets initiative issue, the one black cloud that I've always been concerned about and became more and more concerned about in the last couple of years is this whole issue of homelessness. And I know we talked about it earlier, but it was like, this is how it felt to me, and I'm sure a lot of our citizens felt the same way. It was like our community that's doing so many great things in terms of education opportunities and improving economy and jobs and a growing downtown and just a waterfront that's going to emerge and grow and a riverfront and all these great and positive things. And you go, wow, I mean, what community wouldn't want that? And then we see this growing issue of homelessness and the associated crimes and street issues associated with that, and it was like, it just felt like a black cloud. And now, really, for the first time in a long time, I feel that we have tools and opportunities ahead of us to help those people, to get them in, to lead productive lives and more satisfying lives, get them safe. And when we do that, there's not just a benefit to them, but there's a collective benefit to all of us. Because then we really become the city that we should become, the city that we all want to see us realize. And that's, I feel more hopeful about our future, really, than I have in a long time. And I'm a pretty positive person. You know that I think everything's possible, but with this initiative that we have, our collective efforts, the community support, the support from other cities in the county, we will solve this problem. Now, solving doesn't mean that you're never going to see another homeless person on the street, because some just won't go, and other cities have found that out. But to provide that opportunity for anyone who wants it and to get them the help that they need, that's our goal. That's our vision for helping the less fortunate. And by doing that, we will collectively be a better city, and we'll be better people for it too.
Oh, great. Well, we got a lot to look forward to
Yeah,
next
we do.
year. Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you for joining us. We hope to see you back in the new year.